The Media Matters campaign to end Rush Limbaugh's radio career reached fever pitch this week. Nearly 100 advertisers have asked Premier Radio to keep their commercials away from Limbaugh and other, quote, offensive hosts like Michael Savage and even Sean Hannity. I'm Scott Ott, joined now by Bill Whittle and Stephen Green. Well, men, CNN posted a column by Jane Fonda and Gloria Steinem calling on citizens to urge the Federal Communications Commission to take Limbaugh off the air. The president publicly rebuked the radio talker. At an international women's conference, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi has publicly fantasized that Rush would be advertiser-less. Republican politicians and pundits alike have chastised or at least distanced themselves from the Maharishi. Stephen Green, this looks serious. Have they convinced the public that conservative talk radio is hate speech? And are there some infractions that merit banishment?
Boy, you know, Fonda and Steinem, that's your pulse on what's hip and current in American culture. Look, I know you're playing devil's advocate here, but this is really serious stuff. We've seen the DOJ go after Texas and Arizona for trying to enforce their own laws. The IRS is going after political opponents or enemies, the way the left sees the Tea Party. The FCC is trying to regulate the internet without any authorization from Congress. The EPA gets to just declare its own pollutants now. So the idea of the FCC going after talk radio hosts and trying to just shut them up, take them off the air, I'm sorry, it's not a laughing matter because I can see it happening. It doesn't seem outrageous in this political climate. You know, the solution to speech you don't like is more speech, unless you're a progressive and you control the government, in which case, you go in guns blazing. It's not a laughing matter for me, buddy.
Well, Bill, we all know this is a well-funded, coordinated attack, but the advertisers don't seem to care that they're being used by leftist propagandists, and who can blame them? I mean, what obligation, if any, do businesses have to stand firm in the face of such an assault?
Well, the part of this that's a mystery to me is they're advertising on the Rush Limbaugh show. And they're advertising on the Rush Limbaugh show because he is far and away the most successful radio talk show in the country, far and away. Now, if this were Ryan Seacrest that said this and all of a sudden people are shocked and amazed that somebody would say something like this, that'd be a different story. We're seeing some blowback already from advertisers who have abandoned Rush Limbaugh. Well, Rush Limbaugh has a core audience. You advertise on the Rush Limbaugh show, you're trying to appeal to Rush's core audience. When it's made known that you have abandoned Rush Limbaugh for saying that this woman was a slut, it's not like Rush Limbaugh called for the execution of the President of the United States or anything like that, right? Then the people who are his core audience will not only, look, the people who are launching these boycotts are not his core audience. The only people that can get hurt here, right, are the people who are already advertising on his show. Is that making any sense? If the leftists say we're going to boycott John's gun and ammo shop, tough luck. But if John's gun and ammo shop pulls itself out of the Rush Limbaugh show, then the people who had supported that business in the first place will abandon it. And that's exactly what happened to Carbonite, right? The online backup thing. They pulled their ads. Oh my God, we're shocked and horrified. So people stopped. They just sold their stock in Carbonite. Okay, two people can play this game, Scotty.
Well, Steve, whatever you think of the tactics personally, I mean, don't groups like Media Matters have an unquestionable right to mount campaigns to silence guys like Limbaugh? I mean, it's just the free market, right?
Well, not to silence them, but they of course have the right to encourage people to boycott the advertisers. It's as American as apple pie. But you know the old saying about newspapers? I think it was Ben Franklin who said, you don't start a fight with a man who buys his ink by the barrel. Well, you don't go to war with a guy who has all the 50,000-watt AM radio stations under his command for 3 hours a day, 5 hours a week. Bill hinted at this. He already has advertisers crawling back to him, begging Rush to take their money again, and he's telling them no. He's telling them no. So don't worry about Rush. I think it's going to be just fine.
Well, Bill, the leftists have struck at the jugular of conservative free speech, frankly, the advertisers. Could this be the end not only of Rush Limbaugh, but of conservative talk radio, at least as we know it?
Well, first of all, you said a lot of conservative and Republicans are backing away from Rush. Let me just say I support Rush 100% because fundamentally he was right. He's always right. He's a titan. He's a titan. And with that said, I'll go further. What is happening here is so beautifully backfiring on the left that I almost begin to think Rush did it on purpose, and I wouldn't put it past him. Rush Limbaugh called a woman a slut. He later apologized. Some of the things that Bill Maher has said and Louis C.K. have said about Sarah Palin and others, needless to say, is unprintable, and it's unmentionable on the kind of shows that we produce here. And so now the left, which is 1,000 times more misogynist and 1,000 times more vile than anything Rush Limbaugh's even imagined, let alone said, now has to be held to the same public standards that President Obama inserted himself into, like an idiot. How do I explain this to Sasha and Malia? Well, how do you explain Louis C.K. calling Sarah Palin some of the things he said, Mr. President? Why don't you respond to that too? My favorite saying in all of politics is, liberals want conservatives to shut up, and conservatives want liberals to keep talking. They have a right to boycott advertisers, that's their right. When the FCC starts shutting down free speech, that's another First Amendment violation. And I say, get all these First Amendment violations on the table, and as quickly as possible. We have a choice to make in November.
Well, on April 15, 2003, Hollywood director Tim Robbins told the National Press Club, quote, "A chill wind is blowing in this nation. If you oppose this administration, there can and will be ramifications," end quote. As far as I know, the only ramifications Mr. Robbins faced was the privilege of making some 20 more movies since then with no government restrictions or censorship of any kind. He was not abandoned by his financial backers, and no conservative group spearheaded a campaign to destroy his business. This attempt to destroy Rush Limbaugh's career may be legal, but what's alarming is the way the president and the leading Democrat lawmakers and the mainstream media have coordinated their attacks with Media Matters to threaten not only Mr. Limbaugh's successful business, but the thousands of people nationwide who are employed as a result of his excellence in broadcasting network. No matter what the left does, the good news is we outnumber them. Rush will replace cowardly advertisers, and his listeners will continue to vote with their dollars. This is also a moment when conservatives are taking note of who has the courage to stand up for free speech and who bends to the chill wind blowing from the left. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.